Welcome back. I am Michael Lynch, and this is the Men Seeking Freedom podcast. We are not just a podcast, but we represent a community of men. And these men want to have the freedom to express what's ever on their mind, how they feel, how they love, how they want to live. They want to be known for who they are, not what they do.
Yeah.
And the point of this podcast is to bring in some very interesting people who will tell their stories and give ideas on how men can find their voice. So I'm excited today to introduce you to Robert Phillips. Robert joining us from Chicago. I did some research on him in terms of his background and what he's currently working on right now. But Robert, first of all, welcome to the Men Seeking Freedom podcast. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about those Chi-Town roots of yours.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for having me. I really appreciate it. I don't take it lightly that you invited me to share with the men, your audience that are listening all over the country. And I don't know if we're global yet, but someday, if we're not, we will be. So if
You're
you're
gonna
listening,
you're gonna get us there, Robert.
yeah, if you're listening, welcome to the Men Seeking Freedom podcast. So, Michael already told you my name is Robert Phillips. I consider myself a survivor. I'm just a survivor. And I know when we hear that word survivor, we probably thinking, survivor of what? Did you have a deadly disease, a bad car accident, or what happened? I consider myself a survivor of a 20-year marriage that ended in divorce. 20 years. Thought I spent all.
We get it. Robert, you made it twice as long as I did. But I love in my marriage, but I love the survivor reference.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, survivor. Because the ending broke me, but the recovery built me.
Hmm.
So for the last 3 years, almost four, I've been the happiest I've ever been in my life, Michael. And whenever I tell people that portion of my life, I always ask this. I have a beautiful wife who's made me the happiest man on planet Earth. I smile every single day. So what made you smile today?
Hmm. Wow. Let me,
Yeah.
one point I want to bring up right out of the gate, which I think is important on this theme that we're on, is as a divorced man of 11, it's been 11 years since I've been divorced, and I'm out and about looking. I No, we're going to direct this to the men, but I really love what you said about divorce is trauma. Divorce requires survival if you want to get to the other side. And one thing I notice this in women, but I think men can be guilty of this. And you have alluded to it, the importance of and I think I'm getting this from what you said. What did I learn from that? If I just stay a wounded Robert Phillips, where does that take you in the future? So yeah, if you don't mind, I would expand a little bit on the growth or the education or what it is that you refer to as moving on from or being a survivor.
I tell you, Michael, it was my situation was so drastic and so deadly. I'm not gonna try to get through this without telling you the entire story because I know we're on a strict time frame, but I gotta tell you, so I got served divorce papers that I never saw coming. Like any relationship, any marriage, we all have our ups and downs. That's part of being married, part of being in a relationship. But I had no idea that in March of 2020, while I was battling COVID, and they called it long term, and that's a whole nother podcast for another time. It took me 18 months to get over my sickness. The doctors didn't think I was going to make it. They did not think I was going to make it. So I was fighting for my life in that aspect. But then July 6th of 2020, my doorbell rings. Now I'm thinking, why is my doorbell ringing? Planet Earth is closed. Come on, who don't remember Earth closing when COVID was a thing? And when I walked to the door, it was a sheriff. He asked me, am I Robert Phillips? Of course I'm Robert Phillips. Who else would I be? It's COVID. He pressed this manila envelope into my chest, told me I was served. Then he left. I opened up these papers and they're divorce papers. I never saw it coming. Here's what you don't know. We were still living in the same house. She was right upstairs in the office. I never knew this was coming. So I'm gonna fast forward without going through all the details of that. I'm just trying to paint a picture of everything I was dealing with. So now I got to fight for my life and I'm fighting for my marriage. And what I found out, if you're not both fighting, the one who's fighting and the one who's not, for the one who's fighting, you're wasting your time. Her mind was made up. So when she left, I had to figure out how am I going to fight two battles at the same time. Then I found out I had never been sick in my life, but I found out that stress is real. It's hard to get well when you're stressed out. So I'm dealing with these two fights. She's gone. I'm in this big house by myself and I'm losing weight. I had lost like 80 pounds within 30 days. I can't eat anything, can't sleep. I'm in constant pain because the type of illness I was fighting with COVID was totally different from everybody else's. So I had pretty much in my mind given up. I'm just gonna die. I don't want to, but I got two kids in college, two in high school. I don't want to because I feel like they need me, but I'm giving up. But Michael, I couldn't. So to answer your question, how is it that I was able to navigate through all of that? Is one word, a decision. I made a decision. I won't die like this. I can't. I cannot. I remember thinking I was born at night and I may die at night, but it won't be this night. So I took it one day at a time with a decision. That's how it starts. You got to want it.
Robert, I had, when I first got into sales many years ago, I had a guy who I've not seen in years who was almost like a second father figure to me. And he gave me all these phrases that will stay with me forever. And this is going back to like the mid 80s. And he always just say, Bill was his name, first name, Bill. Michael, your greatest accomplishments in life will come from desperation, not inspiration. Now, you didn't use those words, but as you said that part of your story, there's kind of another therapist once said to me, anger inspires courage. So as I think about your story, you're probably a little bit angry, a little bit desperate, and you're starting to realize I I could lose this game here, the game
Mm.
of life. I could lose if I don't I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but if I don't like grow some whatever to kind of fight back. Is that a fair way to characterize it or
That is absolutely fair. That's it. I knew that if I didn't fight, I was out of here. I was done. So, first step, make a decision. You've got what it takes. I believe that we were all born for a purpose. I really do. And I knew that there's something in me that I have to fight for because I haven't fulfilled my purpose yet. And if I die, that means I will have robbed somebody somewhere of what they need that's on the inside of me. So I decided I'm going to rob the grave today. I robbed the grave. And so it started with a decision. It started with a decision.
let's step just 30,000 feet for a minute. So n- where did that we were talking a little before we came on to the podcast about family. So where, we didn't talk about faith, but what was there something in your foundation that you pulled from that kind of led the charge on making your comeback? Where did that come from?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Mike. I'm glad you even brought that up. Yeah, so what I wanted to lead into was I'm born and raised on the west side of Chicago. And I know you and I talked before the podcast, and you watched my YouTube on my website. So my grandfather was, I mentioned earlier, my grandfather owned an entire city block on the west side of Chicago, which he purchased in the 1950s and 60s, which should not have happened, but he made it happen. So my grandfather, who birthed my father, who raised me, when I got sick and didn't know if I was going to live or die, my father, because the world was closed, remember, there was no visiting at that time, but my family started hearing I wasn't doing well. My dad called me and said, "You can't die. I need you to pull on the faith that your grandfather put in me, that I put in you." Because my grandfather was a man of faith. He actually pastored a church, a beautiful church, before he passed away. So I had to make a decision that I still believe. There's a higher power. For me, that's God. I'm a Christian. For you, it may be something else. And we're not here to debate Christianity or faith. Whatever that is for you, when I made a decision to rely on that, slowly but surely, I started coming out of my situation. And what's interesting about that, Michael, is I told you I was sick. It took me 18 months to get back to normal. I could not tell you the day, the hour, or the second when I started back feeling like me, but gradually it was happening. I had no idea. And one day I just thought, wait, hey, I feel okay. I don't feel any pain anymore. Yeah, so I leaned heavily into my faith, heavily.
But well, faith in I don't want to say a sense of obligation because you love these people, but I mean, you had people before you
Hmm.
that set this precedent and expectation, and you had in your own makeup a belief that I honor these guys. I honor what they expect of me. I mean, those are we can't take for granted, everybody's got, not that you're doing that, but not everybody has that. So how fortunate you were that both faith and strong male figures
Yeah.
played a role in finding, because everybody's got a story that I always, whenever I hear a courageous story, my first reaction to it is, where did the courage come from?
Hmm.
It's sometimes it's harder for people to explain than others, but in your case, so that's it. So you found a way to 18, I can't even comprehend the 18-month part. But so you're going through, I want to capture one thing too, by the way, that you said for the men in the audience. You got hit by a blindside on
Yeah.
getting served. Now, there's men that listen and watch this, I hope are happily married. Some may not be at the moment. Some may be going through divorce or have gone through divorce. And this is not marital counseling here, but this point of getting hit with that type of thing must have sent you into a million ranges of emotions. Most, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what was one of your reactions? I can never let a sheriff or whoever it was show up at the door. That was because when I was going through my divorce, it was like my joke. Please find my humor. I'm not a comedian. My joke that I used to say very nervously during my divorce was, "What's the only thing in life that can be worse than getting divorced?" And my punchline was getting divorced the second time. Robert, I told that joke to a bunch of people who said, "Oh, Michael, I guess you didn't realize I've been divorced, 2.7 times." So my point. So I mean, another thing in you revealing what you went through there was the COVID part. You probably couldn't do anything about, but men hopefully learning from an extremely painful situation and doing. We can't make life perfect, but doing everything they can to say, I'm going to be Robert Phillips, not going through a second divorce. Did you have any kind of that kind of thinking as you're processing things, or did you look at it entirely different?
I looked at everything. So what I found out as a man who had never been sick in his life is when you get sick and you can't get well. I mean, I had a cold a couple of times, but I hadn't been sick. And when you get sick like that, I spent I can't even tell you how many days I spent in the ER because I kept going. You guys are gonna have to figure this out. So I had a whole lot of free time on my hands because I wasn't working. I couldn't go to work, couldn't go to school, couldn't do anything but sit in the house. I thought about every single aspect of my life. And you look at the good days and you look at the bad. And I found out in that my good days outweighed my bad days, even while I was at my worst. And so for the men that are listening, that because you said something, I wanted to touch on it. I was fortunate and I was blessed to have my dad to be a male model to show me that you're not alone. Some men in this audience didn't have that. So if you didn't have that, you're not at a disadvantage. You just got to figure out where your faith is coming from, who you relying on. And I'm getting ready to tell you, in case you don't know, rely on you. There's enough in you to pull yourself up from your bootstraps. I believe that we were all given a measure of faith when we were born, and we have a strength in us that we can tap into and pull ourselves out. Here's the deal. Every experience we've been through, every up, every down that we've been through, it was making us better. I look at it as like a bank. It's like a bank. And this is why I'm saying that everything you've been through, you are making a deposit in this bank. Well, your bank account is not empty. And I believe whatever you sow into, you have a right to withdraw from. So if there's nobody in your life that you can look up, like my dad is still here. My dad is 70, I don't know, 70 something, still giving me advice. I have grown children. But if you don't have that, it's in you. It's in you.
So so you get served, you're sick as a dog, it's 18 months, a lot of reflection, counting more good days than bad days. Do you recall any specific habits you may have developed or rituals or new hobbies or anything during that time that aided in your recovery?
Absolutely. So this is funny. This is funny. So I served 7 years in the United States Army, active duty, which means we ran at least 2 miles a day. And then on Fridays, it would be 4 miles. But when I got out, I didn't do any of that. I don't want to run anymore. I'm tired. Charles Barkley, for the basketball fans out there, I heard Charles Barkley say this years ago. He says, I don't lift weights because they're too heavy, and I don't run because I get tired.
He-
I,
He's
my
he's a very, very quotable man.
yes, my sentiments exactly. So the habit I developed because without getting into a lot of details, my from my head to my toes, when I was sick, I was in pain. I couldn't sit down without being in pain. I would have to stand for 19 to 20 hours a day because the pain was excruciating. And so when people ask me what's the best way I can explain that pain, I tell them whenever I try to sit down or lay down or relax, imagine a Charlie horse going from your neck to your ankles, excruciating, and it wouldn't go away. So the hobby that I picked up, what I developed, and I still do it to this day, walking. I would go outside of my because I couldn't sit down. Stand on your feet all day. And I started walking around my block, walking around my neighborhood. I just started walking. And eventually it got to be like, this is what I do. So that was in 2020. To this day, I still walk.
So
I still
in addition to dealing with cabin fever, in addition to getting whatever, type of cardio or exercise, what did you get I mean, was there a real mental gain from that? Talk a little bit about that, to the benefit of that.
absolutely. So when I was walking, what I found, not the first day or two, maybe probably took me a few weeks to realize this, but when I walked, I forgot that I was in pain. When I would walk around my community, it was as if all the discomfort in my body just went away. It didn't. It absolutely didn't, but it felt like it did. It was like I was just one with it's just me. Because remember, the world was closed. There wasn't very many people outside. Not many cars were moving. It was almost like this is my world and I'm in control and I will just walk. So it frees up your mind. The thing that's pulling you down, I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on this beautiful walk, getting this fresh air, and it's as if the pain just vanished. Yeah, so it's something about walking. I still do it to this day.
That's odd. That's odd. It's almost like my mind over matter, you know, and then whatever your brain was focusing on. I mean, would you find yourself just shutting your brain down and just taking things in, or were you, processing things that you wanted to do in your life that day or in the future? How did that all visualization? Was there anything like that going on?
That's a great question because what I found out is a lot of times before I would go on a walk, I would talk to my mom, and my mom would bring up all these beautiful memories of me when I was growing up. And she would talk to me about different things. She would tell me when I was like 2, 3 years old, some powerful relatives I had in my life that would do different things that made her smile, made me smile. I didn't remember that, but as I walked, I would focus on that. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said mind over matter. I was in pain, but when I was walking, I didn't focus on the pain. There's an old book of wisdom because the mind over matter comes down to what I'm getting ready to quote. In this old book of wisdom, it says, as a man thinketh, so is he. I was thinking happy thoughts when I was walking, which made it feel as if there was no pain. The pain was still there. I didn't know it. I was focused on what mom had just told me. I can remember when you were 6 years old and you were playing in the sandbox and you found a quarter. Oh, you ran into the house so happy. Mom, can I go buy me some now and laters? You remember the now and laters, like
Yeah.
the little candy? Yeah. And I would just be thinking about that. Yeah. So
Did you have siblings?
I did.
Yeah.
So at that time, so I have one, two, three, five sisters. I'm sorry, I had to stop and think. The reason I had to stop and think, three of them grew up in the house with me. Two of them did not, but we were all super close. But yeah, I had five sisters and I was the oldest boy. Yeah, but
And you would prior to us coming on, you had talked about you said your dad came from a
my
large
dad was,
family as well, huh?
yes, the third of 11. Yes, and my mom was a fourth of 10. So it's not surprising, I suppose, that they were drawn to each other. Large.
I'm always, quick interjection. I'm always fascinated by people who struggle with starting conversations. And I saw this at a seminar one time, and you're making me think about it. You ever try to get a group of people talking to each other, ask the people, where did you fall in your family? This is you're going through third of 11. I'm the youngest of three. And
Yeah.
not just the statistic of where you fell. So how did that play out in your life of, and that's one of those things where you can warm up to a group of,
Yeah.
you don't even need to know people. And they might, oh, I was the only child, and here's what that meant. Or, yeah, I was the fourth of seven, or I was whatever. I don't know. It's just an interesting. So you said, so you were the oldest with
And only
five,
boy.
and
So I'm
only
the
boy. So,
oldest and only boy.
so okay. So what's on your resume as having had that credential? What did that mean from an impact, or what role do you play in your family?
So for me, being the oldest and the only boy, my parents were extremely hard on me. I saw, especially my baby. So the babies are twins. So I think I'm 11 years older than them. So by the time they came, the stuff they were getting away with would have never. How can they? How can they get away with that? And I would get severely punished. No TV for you for 2 weeks, and all they get is a talking to, and not even they didn't even get hollered at. So, and not only that, so they were very hard on, and I appreciated it. My dad was very strict, very stern, and my mom was too. And I appreciated it when I joined the Army. I was 17 when I joined the Army. I can remember sitting in Fort Sill, Oklahoma in boot camp, and the drill sergeants gave everybody, I think it was like 65, 70 people in my platoon. We all had something to do. We had to clean up something, mop, sweep, wash a dish, do something. And half the guys in there could not sweep. And the drill sergeant said something that I still remember. How can you be this old and you don't know how to sweep? And I remember thinking, my dad started me doing housework when I was like 7. I used to get angry because I had to take turns with my sisters, but I see now why he did that. Character, responsibility. These guys didn't have it. So my father was as hard on me as he was because he was putting character in me, responsibility in me. So I appreciate to this day, every blue moon, I tell him, Pops, I really appreciate what you did for me. Because that's what fathers do. They put that in their children. So yeah.
So in spite of spoiling the two youngest ones, you still had it. You still
Oh,
had it pretty good.
I had a pretty, yeah, I was fortunate. I was blessed. I was blessed. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Robert Phillips, the reconnection
Oh
architect.
yeah.
Now that's one of those reconnection architect. We can go in a million directions on what that might mean. Tell the audience what that means.
So what I found out, so real quickly, a few years ago, I took over a company on the south side of Chicago. The company wasn't doing well. They had a very high turnover. Employee morale was in the dumps. They brought me on board and I took the position. I was like, wow, how am I going to turn this around? What I figured out, and I pretty much brainstormed with my mentor, how am I going to turn this around? And one of the things we came up with was this. When I took over within my first couple of months, I blocked out time slots in my calendar for every employee in the organization. It was about 50, maybe 60 employees. Sign up for 15 minutes during any of these time slots. Come in my office and let's talk. And what I discovered was I asked 5 questions. One of the questions I asked them was, what are your goals? How's your family? Are you married? I was connecting with them. And when they saw that I was that took me about 2 months to get through all the employees. When I connected with these employees, I remembered their stories. When I would see them in the hallway, I would see them at lunch, I would say, hey, Mike, how's your wife doing? Or, hey, Mike, how's your son doing? I think you got a baseball game, don't you, Mike? Hurry up and get out of here so you can go to practice. Take your kids up. I was connecting. I didn't know what it was at the time, but later I put a name on it. I connected with my people. I reconnected with the same people that had a high turnover, and we were able to improve retention. We were able to improve employee performance, and we turned the company around all because I reconnected with the same people that the last administration gave up on. From that, I was nicknamed the Reconnection Architect.
A nice, that's a nice badge of honor to have. What in, obviously you went into a company that sounds like it was struggling. What is it, was it always your approach in any situation to show that level of curiosity to find out about people? What inspired that for you?
To answer that question, yes and no. So I'm kind of a nosy person, as my mom would say if she were on this
It's
on this
curious. It's
podcast.
curious, not it's
I
curious,
like
not nosy.
it's curious. So I've always been interested to see where people come from, how they're doing, what are their goals, but I was never able to put it to practice in an organization like that. I was never able to take advantage of make it a superpower, if you will, because that's kind of like my superpower. My wife today, I'm happily remarried. I think we shared that. She says, you don't meet strangers. You really don't meet strangers. We can be in Walmart checking out, and by the time we leave, I know how many children this person has, what school they're in. I just like finding things out. So I turned it into a superpower. And what I found out, Michael, is that I think this is powerful. From that, when I led that company, this is what I found out. The leadership team that was there before me, they led with control. So when I came in, I decided to lead with connection. And from that, here's what I came up with this little slogan. I don't know if it's a slogan, but this is what I came up with. Control will get you commitment. And it will, but I'm sorry, control will get you compliance,
Compliance.
but connection will get you commitment. That's something my grandma would say it like this. You can catch more bees with honey than you can with vinegar. So yeah, I connect with people and it works.
Question I have for you. So you, you have a lot of life experiences. You are a man. You grew up with influential men. Let's kind of look at 2026 now, Robert, in the circles you run in and in the observations that you make. What do you, so based on what you've been through in your life, and you have men listening to this podcast, what are some observations you see about either what men should be doing more of, or what men should try to avoid doing? Do you have any, you have a lot of wisdom now, and the whole point of it is sharing it here. And these are more, I'm making more generalizations here as opposed to, but you fit the person we have on here because you have this track record of life happens, not all candy canes and sugar plums, and you had to deal with it. So you have authority from that perspective. What advice or what can you share about observations you have that would benefit men listening?
Oh, that's a great question. Here's how I would answer that. So it's called the law of association. And it comes from this scientist years ago, took 10 fleas. If I'd have known you were asking that, I'm gonna just try to do the best I can. Took 10 fleas. We'll use my water bottle. My water bottle. So imagine a water bottle. That's not what the
We haven't we
scientist
haven't we haven't rehearsed this, right?
right.
We're going on
This
the
is
fly
not
here.
rehearsed. This is absolutely real time. So the scientist took 10 fleas and put them in a water bottle. I don't know how tall the water bottle is. Let's say it's about 12 inches tall. He put the fleas in there and he put the lid on top of the water bottle. Fleas trying to jump out, they couldn't jump out. Left the top on the water bottle for like 3 hours. He comes back, takes the top off. The fleas are still jumping, but they won't try to jump out because the fleas have been conditioned to stay right where they are. They've been conditioned. You can jump 10 inches, 12 inches, however long this is, but you can't jump any higher, even though fleas can jump 36 inches. Fleas will jump 36 inches, but they were conditioned not to jump 10 to free themselves. So what happened? What happened with the fleas? What happened was this is how the fleas got out. The scientists introduced a new flea that had not been conditioned to limit himself, that had not been conditioned that there's pain if I go higher than this, like the other 10. So when he put the new flea in, he jumps out. The other 10 saw him and they jumped out too. He called it the law of association. Here's what I will say to men: take the limits off. You've got to find somebody that's doing what you want to do and connect with them. Because if you mimic them, you'll get what they have. We've been conditioned that all you can do is work a 9 to 5, work 40, 50 years, retire, and hopefully you'll get some Social Security that's in jeopardy right now. No, sir, men, take the limits off. There's something in you. Start your own. You can do it. It's in you. Take the limits off.
So let's bury a couple of things here. So you are the reconnection architect. I
Yes.
think so. Let's speak to what you just said now. Human beings can easily replicate the fleas, not make decisions, go along with what's been happening, status quo. And unfortunately, for some people, they get served papers when they don't expect it. I'm not picking on you with that, but
I
I'm just
love
saying
it. Go
people,
ahead,
people
Mike.
but people inactivity can lead to bad things happening to people. So where I'm going, so as you're telling this story, I'm thinking again, where does courage come from? Where does empowerment come from? I think what's great about where you've taken this is connecting with people, showing curiosity, learning about them, being genuine. Men, it's kind of the vision for this community as I implement things here. Men getting used to talking openly with each other, as you did, in a very articulate way, sharing this painful experience and then attaching it to survival. I think men, when they get together and they share things like this, all of a sudden we start to realize, wow, I never knew Robert, but man, he went through some crap just like I went through. Not the same thing, different circumstance. Oh, and Joe is going through. First of all, we're not rooting for everybody to go through bad things, but we just start. The first reaction to that is, so wow, we're all human. Isn't that interesting? And being human means maybe I can do what Robert's talking about and be courageous and start stepping into don't get me wrong, it can feel dangerous and uncertain and all that stuff, but I don't know, I'm trying to put a bow on all this, but I love where you're going with we need to, what will embolden men to, as I say in this group, find our voice, speak our feelings, know we can cry, know we're more than our job, know that we fail at marriages, know that the more conversation we have about those things, I don't know if this makes sense or not, the more conversation we have about those things, and the more people can say, wow, guys like Michael and Robert, they're kind of sort of like me in the sense that we're still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. Does that make any, does that make any sense?
Absolutely. As men, we got to be comfortable because society told us when we were little boys, stop crying. Boy, you're a big boy. Boys don't cry. They lied to us. We do. We are emotional. We can cry. But to kind of answer what you just alluded to, men have to be comfortable speaking to other men. So that means we got to find men we can trust because everybody, okay, I'm getting ready to say something. It's good to me before I say it, but I'm thinking it. Think of yourself, think of it like this. When I say we have to be able to communicate and talk to men that we can trust, what I'm saying is this. Every microphone isn't worth your message. So we got to find some men that we can talk to that won't judge us, that'll make us feel comfortable, make us feel safe. When we pull those layers back and say, look, brother, this is what I've been through. I'm struggling with this. Let's hash this out. Can you help me? And that's what we all need. I used to do some marital counseling back in the day, and I used to tell the men, I used to tell the husbands, and specifically, it was for the wives, but I would say it as if I was talking to the husband because the potential wives would be in there. Men have to have time to spend with other men. We grow from that. And like you said, we learn from each other. I can take, like, man, Michael went through that. I'm going through that right now. And if that worked for Michael, it's got to work for me. So we have to be comfortable with speaking to other men.
I love such a key thing you said, though, of creating trusting environments, creating respect. But yeah, can men will open up about pain if the environment is trusted.
Exactly.
So thank you for going there, because I think that's a critical. All right, so you shared all this wisdom here today, and we've got people jumping out of their chairs probably as they're watching and listening to this. How can someone in this audience reach out to Robert Phillips? What's the best way to connect and build a connection with you?
I love it. So I just started a couple of new social media pages that I'm building now, specifically to help us, men helping each other. It's my professional page. And that's what, if you go on there, you'll see my following. It's growing. But you can find me on LinkedIn under Robert L. Phillips. Robert L., that L is like leader, Phillips. That's not what it stands for, but that's my LinkedIn. On Facebook and Instagram, it's the same thing. It's rphillips2.official.
Excellent.
rphillips2.official. So that's where you can find me. I'm always posting something. Most of the time I'm posting about leadership.
And and if people reach out to you, you'll probably have something to say.
Absolutely.
I can't get over how shy you are, for crying out loud. So, Robert, that's great. And just so you know that when I post this podcast to the Men Seeking Freedom webpage, your podcast will have the links to all those in there. So, but thank you for sharing that in the meantime. So, well, thank you, Robert. You opened a can of worms here, because I think I have like 12 subjects that we need to go down a deeper road on, especially the one you dropped at the end there, marital counseling. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you just covered a lot of things in this conversation today. So thank you very much. For everybody watching this, please share this podcast. Robert has wisdom, life experience, engaging, connecting. Please do that. And if you need information about Men Seeking Freedom, it's simply go to menseekingfreedom.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode.